Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. This is going to be my first update for Pan palette for this year. I'm so excited to talk about what I've been doing with the 3 palettes I've been working on that technically fall under this year's Pan palette theme. I did not post the introduction for this project on January 1st like I would have liked to. I think it was more like January 6th or 7th. But that being said, we are at the tail end of February, so it has been well over a month since I posted my last update. I try to post updates every month, but my inventory and my life have thrown me off and I'm playing catch up once again. That being said, let's jump into what I've been doing since I posted the introduction at the beginning of January. Let's start with my Baby Pan palette. Baby Pan palette is a side project to help me focus on smaller palettes. Ironically, my Pan palette is a very small palette as well. But back then when I started doing Baby Pan palette, my Pan palette was a much bigger palette. And I wanted to also focus on the smaller palettes. So the rule is 5 pans or less. The truth is a 5 pan palette is probably more of a Pan palette than a Baby Pan palette for me. But I had to go through Pan palette for many years to come to that realization. But for now, the rule is 5 pans or less, and you work on the Baby Pan palette until it is gone completely. For Pan palette, I commit to those products for 1 year, and then I allow myself the opportunity to move on to something else, because panning a palette for 1 year is quite a commitment in and of itself. Panning a product until it is completely finished is, for a slow panner like me, quite a project. But for Baby Pan palette, that's the mission. Stick with it until it's gone. My devotion to my Baby Pan palette will certainly ebb and flow during the time that I'm working on it. Sometimes I focus in on it like a laser beam. Other times I don't focus in on it very much, but it never goes away until it is gone. For several years now, I've been working on this little sample from Smashbox. This came in an Ipsy bag. Ipsy, not Impsy. This came in an Ipsy bag. This is the Smashbox Full Exposure, and it is just 2 shades from that Full Exposure palette that were sent to us as Ipsy Glam Bag subscribers. I will go ahead and shoot up a picture of what this looked like at my last update. And this is what it looks like now. I am so excited to report that I am so very close to finishing off this shade. It should, without a doubt, be an empty for next month. There is just this little piece in the corner. That's it. That's all that's left. That little itty bitty sliver in that corner. I think maybe 1, 2 uses and then it's a goner. There's something about seeing a shadow almost gone that definitely lights a fire under my butt, and I've been reaching for this more days than I haven't, and I've been loving it. A lot of times when I'm reaching for the shadow, my initial intention is not to use the shade, but once I have it open and out, sometimes I tend to use it because it's a gorgeous neutral color. It's kind of like a deep gold or a light bronze, and I already have it open, so I'm like, well, I'll just use it. And I think I've made some good progress on this top shade too. It's obviously not as close to being finished, but I definitely feel like I've expanded the pan quite a bit. I'm almost at side pan over here. I've almost cleared out this side, and I feel like it's going really quickly. I'm getting really close to finishing off this product. I can taste it, and I'm getting so motivated. I find myself reaching for this a lot. And when I don't consider myself to be a neutral eyeshadow wearing lover, I prefer to go for color, but because I'm seeing so much progress in this at this point, I can't put it down. I tend to just reach for it every day. Once I finish the last little crumb of this matte shade, I might not be reaching for it as consistently, but now while I'm trying to finish off that matte shade, I reach for this every day. Except for I only used the crease shade today. I did resist. I only used the crease shade today. I didn't use the golden shade, but I'm so excited that this is going to be down to a 1 pan palette very, very soon, and that I'm going to be getting another point towards my low buy bank. Yes. All right, let's move on to my Pan That palette for this month. For several years now, I have gone with the PANtastic Ladies theme for Pan That palette. The PANtastic Ladies are a group over on Facebook that's all about project panning. The group focuses primarily on creating inclusive projects that anybody can join that have different themes. And what's nice about multiple people joining one project is that when you're posting your updates, you could see other people posting their updates, and it's very motivating and encouraging. And it's kind of like you're on a team and you're rooting for your team. And it's super fun when other people are rooting for you to be successful in project panning. Because I have a small platform here on YouTube, I get lots of encouragement for you guys. For a lot of people who don't have this presence on YouTube or Instagram, it's nice to do projects with the PANtastic Ladies because you have like a group of cheerleaders behind you and encouraging you, and it's super fun. I think my first PANtastic Ladies Pan That palette theme was in 2017. So I think I've been doing this for 7 years now. Could be wrong, but it's been a long time. The theme for this year in 2024 is bite-sized, and I think that could come to some different interpretations, but I think overall the idea was a smaller palette, and I was definitely ready to go to a smaller palette after last year's colossal Pan That palette fail. I had 2 quads. I should have been able to finish 2 quads. Did not even come close. So for this year, I am working on a little 4-pan sampler that was also a sample from an Ipsy Glam bag. It was basically brand new at the introduction last month, but I will go ahead and throw up a picture of what it looked like right now. And here is where I'm at with my little quad today. Not a whole lot of change. I don't think I'm too surprised, but because these pans are so itty bitty tiny, there is a part of me that thought there'd be a little bit more progress, but I am an eternal optimist when it comes to project panning, and reality is often a bit more disappointing than whatever I'm imagining as far as my project panning skills or potential. That being said, I have reached for this little quad almost every day since I introduced it, and I've been enjoying it. I don't necessarily do an entire look using all 4 shadows, but I try to incorporate one of these shadows in my looks on a daily basis. What I've been tending to do a lot is use the greens. I feel like I've used the greens, the greeny aqua colors the most. This one is a stunning inner corner. Both of them make stunning inner corner highlights. This one is like a pastel neon. It is gorgeous. Probably my least used shade is the white. It is just a matte white. I actually put it on today all over. I just kind of like set my base, like set the inner half of my eyelid with it after I primed. And that's probably how I'm going to end up using it because I really don't have a need for a matte white eyeshadow in my life, but I do want to use this up. This is the shocker of the bunch. This shadow is, I've been completely amazed by how pigmented all 4 of these shades are since using them. I've heard about Coastal Scents Hot Pots for years and years and years. I've had them on my wish list for years and years and years. I've never once purchased a Coastal Scents Hot Pots, but these are samples of Coastal Scents Hot Pots, and holy cow, the quality and pigmentation in these eyeshadows is so impressive. These are the kind of shadows that go on sale for 99 cents once a year. You can get an entire eyeshadow single for 99 cents once a year, and these are so impressive. This kind of deep camo olive shade is super pigmented. I have tried to use it as an all over lid shade a few times, and it was just too smoky for me to wear during day. I was a little bit, I think I scared my neighbor one time. It was a little too smoky. I've also tried layering these 2 together. Like I'll put the deeper shade on first and then I put this green shade on top. That helps a little. But what I like to do most is wear this as like an outer corner shade, which is how I have it today. No, is it what yeah, right? Yes. I have this shade on the outer half of my eyelid, and then I have a much lighter goldeny shade, which happens to come from my Colored Rain palette on my eyelid. I tend to pair this with the gold shade from my Baby PANtat palette quite a bit, and that works out as well too. But yeah, whoo, it is pigmented. At the introduction of this project last month, I suggested that I was leaning towards giving myself a half of a point per pan if I should finish, for every eyeshadow I should finish. And a lot of you guys were like, Paula, make it 1 point. You deserve 1 point per pan. And I really appreciate that. And after using this palette for like 6 weeks now, I think I'm gonna agree with you, because I've been using this for 6 weeks and there's barely a dip. The one thing I didn't want was to fly through these shadows and be like, yep, I get a point, and like kind of cheat my way through this, but it is not going to be as easy to get through these as I thought. And I think I am going to be giving myself a full point every time I finish one of these shadows, because it's not going to be that easy. That being said, we're only like 1 month into this project, and I am cautiously optimistic that I'm going to do some damage to this year. And if I can keep using it every day, I think I should. I have one more palette to talk about in this video, and that is my Better Together PANtat Palette Companion. This is another PANtastic Ladies project, which was created by me, and the idea behind this project is to choose a companion palette that goes well with your PANtat palette, and as a result makes the two better together than apart. I have decided to roll in my 100 pan palette from from e.l.f. as my Better Together companion palette for 2024. This is my 3rd year now working on this palette. I've never worked on a palette for 3 years straight, but I cannot quit it. Let me show you a picture of where I was at with this palette at the last update. And this is where I'm at now. There's really not a lot of change to this palette since the last update. What I have done is finally finished off the last little bits of the pink shadow that was right here. It was hanging on for dear life at the introduction in January, and it didn't take long for me to finish it off. I just had to use it a few more times. And I think I expanded the pan on this blue shade just a little bit. I like that shade a lot. It's a relatively easy blue eyeshadow for me to wear, which is weird for me to say because I kind of hate blue eyeshadow, but out of all the blue eyeshadows, I find that one to be very wearable. And the other thing that I've been using is this shade right here. I've chosen this shade as my brow bone highlight shade. It is not the shimmeriest brow bone highlight, but it's also not matte, and it's been doing the trick. I've been wearing it almost every single day. I'm trying to pick up product with my brush very evenly, and so there really is no dip forming in this product yet. But like I said, when I drag my brush through that pan, I try to cover a different part of the pan every time, and so it's wearing down pretty evenly. That being said, these pans are very shallow in this palette, so I'm hopeful that when I do hit pan, it's gonna go quickly. I do expect to have pan in that shadow by the next update, I think. The only other thing I feel like I can report on from this palette over this past month was I went back to playing with these pinks quite a bit. Sometimes it was this one, sometimes it was this one, sometimes it was this one. I might have expanded that pan just a smidge. I'll have to go back and compare it. But yeah, I'm so excited to have pinks to play with again this year. My PANtat palette and Better Together PANtat palette were both extremely neutral palettes, and I'm so excited to have a bunch of color back in my life again, and I've been reaching for those pinks quite a bit now that I have access to them in this project. So I think that's the likely culprit for where we're going to see a lot of change this year, because I just love wearing pink eyeshadow. I don't know why, but Yes. There is still a long way to go with this palette. There are 91 shadows left in this palette, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, there are still 91 shadows left in this 100 pan palette. So I'm very excited to have one empty in this palette already. But like I said, it was something that I had probably worked on for 2 years before I finished it over this past month. So it didn't all happen overnight, but I'm very excited to have one less shadow in this palette for this year already. All right, that is going to be it for this update. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.